Welcome to another box opening for Curio Cavern. Today we'll be exploring the Lorwyn Eclipsed set, brand new Magic set coming out this upcoming weekend. We've got our pre-release events scheduled. Hopefully we'll see you at some of them, and if we don't, you can always reach out to us. Let us know if you'd like to participate in the next pre-release. We'd be happy to have you. Hope everyone has been well since our Avatar box breaks. As you can see, I'm just a tad bit excited to get into this. It's always nice with the Felicia Sala artwork there. And you always get one of these inserts that just give you the draft breakdowns, which is super nice because limited is not a dying format, but it's always fun to get new people into it. So welcome. We're gonna get to opening here. Wish us luck, and here we go. Alright, so I've heard that the token in the back is a good sign because that means the rare is actually in the back, so we do get to do kind of a slow roll. For the first few packs, we'll just kind of go through each and see how it is. We've got Korath Mystic. Now normally when I'm opening cards, I like to sort them by color, and that's just to make it easier for all sorts of sorting purposes later. For the store, but also for us. I've always found that it's just beneficial to have these cards in a nice order, and color is usually the best way to do it. Seeing a lot of good limited options here. Architect's Defense, Tweeze. That's good removal right there because it deals 3 damage to any target, and it also lets you cantrip. Moonglove Extractor, Surly Farrier, Morkent's Loyalist. Oh, that's an Elf Lord. It says whenever this creature dies, return another target elf you control from your graveyard to your hand, so really good elf synergies there. Excited to see a lot of the Kindred come back. Seer, this is a very good spot removal and is going to be an absolute major removal piece in any limited format. Very happy to see that. Gathering Stone, we got our first Shockland, starting out strong. We got a Timid Shield Bearer. We got a nice Full Art Mountain. That looks really cool. And a double-sided token. This time it's a Merfolk and a Shapeshifter, which we saw earlier. Alright. So that's kind of how the pack breakdown works. Play boosters are interesting in the fact that they have a chance for multiple rares, but it's never guaranteed. Occasionally you'll get lucky and you'll see, 4 or 5 rares in one thing, with one being foil, but most of the time you just end up with 1 or 2, if you're lucky. In this case we got one with the Steam Vents, so not too bad. A Liminal Hold, Barbed Bloodletter, Safe Raid Cavalry, Gristle Glutton. I watched this do some pretty good work in another limited game that I saw, and I think this is a very strong card. Blight 1, discard a card, draw a card. Any sort of, not looting, but the other effect, I forget the name of it. I'm sure rummaging, that's the word. Boulder Dash, deal 2 damage to any target and 1 to any other. Again, sorcery speed though, I still think Seer is a little bit stronger, but still very good removal. Okay, Darkness Descends. That's a nice little clear, especially for everything having a lower power and toughness for the most part. We got Brigid's Command. Alright. Kithkin Sorcery. Create a token of target Kithkin. So that can be very good considering how many changelings are in the set. Get a Kithkin. Give a creature +3/+3. At sorcery, that's kind of okay. If you're giving something with trample, that buff, it actually does work out really well. But yeah, usually if you're buffing something, you're probably going to have it fight something else. So the first 2 kind of go together, the second 2 kind of go together, and you can always make a mix and match. That's what makes the commands the fun. And we got a Bog Slither's Embrace, which says you can blight 1 or pay 3. So for 2 mana, you put a -1/-1 counter on a creature you control and exile target creature. It seems pretty strong. Cool looking forest. And we got an Elk and Oko's Emblem this time. Alright. What cards are you most excited about seeing in this set? I, for one, am a very big fan of a lot of the Kithkin stuff, but also a lot of the elf stuff. I was a big elf player back in the day. I always enjoyed getting out many little 1/1 dorks that would turn into very big mana rocks later by just pumping up my creatures or doing something else. Pummeler for hire. Vigilance reads Ward 2, and this creature enters, you gain X life, for X is the greatest power among giants you control. Giant synergy coming back, but in green. Very interesting. Another Gathering Stone. Spells of the Chosen Type. We didn't get to read this one earlier. As this artifact enters, choose a creature type. Spells of the Chosen Type cost 1 less to cast, cost 4, and then when this artifact enters, and at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card. If it's a card of the Chosen Type, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. If you don't, you may put the card into your graveyard. This seems like a quite stronger version of Herald's Horn. Eclipsed Flamekin, we got another Shockland. Alright, love that for us. And we got a Grave Shifter. Now, the Shocklands in the set have a chance to be the full art flip Shockland, which is really cool. I've seen it. It's the, what is it, Night and Day, or the Lorwyn side versus the Shadowmoor side, and I thought that was a very cool concept. I definitely like it when we get double-sided cards that kind of go above and beyond. It's different to see. It's always nice to see different kind of style that we're not used to, and it definitely makes it a lot more fun. Assert Perfection. Oh, we got something in the back here. Eclipsed Boggart. Eclipsed Realms. All these Eclipsed cards. We got a Twin Flame Traveler in a fancy frame. Oops, that doesn't go there. It goes here. I'll move these over and make this easier on myself. And we got a Celestial Reunion as our first mythic. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may choose a creature type and behold 2 creatures that share that type. So you must behold, so if you choose elf, you must behold, i.e. reveal 2 cards from your hand that are elves, and then you can do what the rest of the spell says, because that is an additional cost. But X and green, not bad. One of my friends who is big on Limited was very underwhelmed by that card. They mentioned how different it is, and even though it seems like it could be okay, while the artwork for it is gorgeous, the card itself, not so much. And I am inclined to agree. I can't say that's something I would want to see opened in my pool, but I also know that I'd probably pass on it on pack one, pick one anyways, that's for sure. Chitinous Graspling, all these changelings with keywords. So we got a Feisty Spikeling, a Chitinous Changeling, and a Mischievous Sneakling. All the ings. Mist Meadow Council, Cinderstrike, Guiltleaf's Embrace. Flash, enchant creature. This aura gives enchanted creature trample and indestructible until end of turn. Very nice. Another Seer. An Eclipsed Elf this time. Dawnblessed Pennant. As this artifact enters, choose from among the creature types Elemental, Elf, Fairy, Giant, Goblin, Kithkin, Merfolk, or Treefolk. Whenever permanent you control of the chosen type enters, you gain 1 life. And then you can sack this artifact to return target creature of the chosen type from your graveyard to your hand. So, you pick one and then that's what you're with, but then it also is recursion later on. This is very good for most players that aren't in black. So elves that aren't in black, just mono green. Fairies that aren't in black, that are just mono blue or blue red. Definitely a lot of good choices there. Bloodline Bidding is our rare. Convoke. Choose a creature type, return all creature cards of the chosen type from your graveyard to the battlefield. Very good kindred sorcery, even though it's not a kindred sorcery. Ooh, Lava Leaper, we got 2 rares. All creatures have haste, and whenever a player taps a basic land for mana, that player adds 1 mana of any type that land produced. So this is Mana Flare and Mass Hysteria in 1, and even though it doesn't require creatures to attack, which is kind of good for you, it does give each player the effect of having additional mana when they tap a basic land. So good to note. Could be very good for mono red players that are already using just mountains. We got a Barbed Bloodletter in foil this time, an island, and a black red goblin, and a green treefolk. I'm kind of hoping that we get to see not just Shocklands, but we get to see the Hexing Squelcher. That's one of the ones that I know our community of CDH players is not super excited about getting out into the wild. Decent counterspell. 2 mana blue counterspells. You can either pay 1 additional or you can blight 2 to counter a spell. It's very good. Kovrath Zealot, Auntie Sentence, Lessalana Informant, Summit Sentinel, Silvergale Mentor. I like this one a little bit better than the Adept who draws you a card. Draw a card is obviously a little bit more powerful, but a 2-for-1 body when you play it for 2 mana is pretty strong. And I definitely think in Limited it'll be very good. Clan Chant Festival. When this enchantment enters, create 2 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature tokens, and then you can pay 5 4 and white to make a 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature token. Of note, this goes in white decks, or can go in any white deck, just because it does not have the color identity of green-white, even though it says it creates green-white tokens. Voracious Tome Skinner. We got a Miss Bind Click. This is one of these special guest cards that you can see in regular packs. I believe the foils are exclusive to collector packs, but I'm not 100% sure. We'll find out a little later. But we got a Miss Bind Click. The Chronicle of Victory. This Chronicle of Victory enters, choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type get +2/+2 and have first strike and trample. And whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, draw a card. So this is Vanquisher's Banner that is significantly better. It gives 2 keywords, an additional buff, and it lets you still draw a card when you cast a spell of the chosen type. Costs 6 though, as opposed to 5, and it is legendary, so copying it's going to be a little bit harder, but it's still quite good. Aquatex Defense and Foil, regular island, and another Kithkin and an elf this time. Alright. Mythics are pretty okay so far. Haven't seen anything crazy. Hoping to see the Bitter Bloom Bearer as well. Big fan of that card. I've always been a big fan of Bitter Blossom, so excited to see one of those. But we'll see what happens. Oops. Already messing up, putting different colors in the wrong spot. Gallant Foul Knight. Illusion Spinners. So as long as you control the fairy, you can cast this as though it had hexproof, and then this, or excuse me, as though it had flash, and then this creature has hexproof as long as it's untapped. Pretty good. Sting Slinger. This time it deals damage as opposed to drawing a card. Encumbered Reejery. Voracious Tome Skinner. A Hollowed Fountain. Very nice. It's our 3rd Chalk Land of the box, and we're not even that far into it. Alright, we got a Full Art Swamp, and another Goblin with a Tree Folk this time. What colors do you like to normally play? I'm a big fan of green, always have been for the longest time. In Limited, I've noticed that sometimes it's very good and very strong, and you have a nice little pool to pull from. Other times, though, green is not so great, and you kind of end up with just a bunch of mana dorks that don't do anything, or in the late game when people have killed all your stuff, you don't really have a way to recover from that. So, oh, Catharsis. It's our first Mythic Elemental Incarnation. They did a whole set of these. We're going to talk about each one when we get to them. When this creature enters, if 2 white were spent to cast it, create 2 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature tokens. But when this creature enters, if 2 red was spent to cast it, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain haste until end of turn. All of these elemental incarnations have very unique effects with what they do with their colors. It's very on theme. You can definitely see with the white being creating dudes and the red being buffing and giving haste. This card just definitely has the most potential for red deck wins. The evoke cost being 2 of either color, so you can kind of pick which benefits you want to get, whether you just want to create 2 dudes for 2 mana, or you want to buff up your board and then swing in for lethal. It just seems like you have many options to do what you'd like to do, and if you happen to have the 6 mana and you want to do it for both sides, you can, because this will give you not only a 3/4 body, but 2 1/1s to go with it, and then you'll give them all +1/+1 and they'll gain haste. So very strong card, very excited to see what this does. Got a Twilight Drover. It's our foil rare of this pack. When this creature enters, surveil 2. And then whenever 1 or more creatures you control enter, if they entered or were cast from a graveyard, create a token that's a copy of one of them. This ability triggers only once each turn. That clause is very important, and it's kind of good that they did that, because with Colossal Dreadreaver, which I'm sure many of you know about, a treasure token. That can get really out of hand really quickly. And being able to only do it once per turn seems a lot better, but if you run into any flicker effects where you're able to blink it out and then do it again in the same turn, you can create multiple copies of different creatures. Liminal Hold, another Marrow Sky Swimmer, Chitinous Graspling, Cinder Strike. Unforgiving Aim, a good modal spell, gives you a way to deal with flying creatures, deal with enchantments, or just get a dude for 3 mana at instant speed. Doomdalin Weaver, for 2 mana. When this creature enters, if you control 3 or more creatures, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Not bad, very small Eternal Witness-esque effect. Instead of it being any card, though, you only get permanents, and it's only if you control 3 or more creatures. Note that it does count itself because it does not say 3 or more other creatures, it just says 3 or more. So if this is your 3rd creature, you do get it. Boggart Mischief, when this enchantment enters, you may blight 1. If you do, create 2 1/1 black and red goblin creature tokens. Whenever a goblin creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This is quite good for anyone doing any sort of goblin decks with black in it. Pyrrhic Strike. Pestered Wellguard, whenever this creature becomes tapped, create a 1/1 blue and black fairy creature token with flying. If this was a wizard, I would be very into it. We got Ashling the Rekindled. This is one of the double-sided flip transforming creatures that they did for the set. I like this one a lot. It says when it enters, you may, or transforms into Ashling Rekindled, you may discard a card if you do draw cards. There's a rummage effect. And then if you pay a blue during your first main phase, you transform. And then you've got Ashling Rhymebound, which says when this creature transformed into Ashling Rhymebound and at the beginning of your first main phase, add 2 mana of any one color. Spend this mana only to cast spells with mana value 4 or greater. It's very easy to include many 4 or greater mana spells in your red-blue decks, so definitely excited to see what kind of brews come off of that. Got an Appeal to Eardew and Foil, Foil Swamp, another elf token. So far, not bad. Looks like we're not at halfway yet, but we're getting there. Probably one more row after this one, and then we'll be about halfway through. Aquatex Defenses, Wanderbarn Preacher, Flamekin Guildweaver, Dream Seizure, Wary Farmer, Summit Sentinel, Prismatic Undercurrents, Nameless Inversion, very good reprint. Target creature gets +3/-3 and loses all creature types until end of turn. So this can be very good if someone's targeting something, say like an elf or a Kithkin that they're trying to make a copy of with Bridges command. If it's too big and you're trying to kill it, you know, maybe you won't be able to kill it, but you will be able to stop it from maybe resolving that spell. But this specifically being able to give +3 and -3 kills most things, so it is good removal, but also is a good buff late game if you have a very large dude and you're just trying to get big swings in. Hovel Hurler, Rhyme Chill, a rare as Immutable Explorer. It's got Changeling, and when this creature enters, create a tapped Mutavault token. We got a Foil Deep Channel Duelist, which at the beginning of your end step, untap target merfolk you control, and other merfolk you control get +1/+1. It's a nice little Lord effect. All right. Foraging Wickermaw, Flaring Cinder, Keep Out, Scarblade's Malice, Wild Vine Pummeler, I can't talk, Bone Club Berserker, Glamour Gifter, Burden Stoneback. Some of the names on these cards. Morkant's Eyes, at the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 1, 4 and 2 green, sacrifice this enchantment, create X 2/2 black and green elf creature tokens, where X is the number of elf cards in your graveyard. Activate only a sorcery. Not terrible. At your upkeep, you get to see your top card and see if it's something you want or if it's something you want to pitch to the yard. And you can eventually get a good payoff. Endblaze Epiphany is our rare, deals X damage to target creature. When that creature dies this turn, exile a number of cards from the top of your library equal to its power. Then choose a card exiled this way. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. Very nice. We've got a Furdock Core and Foil, an Island, another Goblin, and a Fairy token this time. Big fan that Kithkin have made their return after many moons. I know a lot of people are very excited for what's to come in Strixhaven, since we got a little preview with some of the first year student cards. And we'll see how that goes. I definitely think they have strong potential, as each of them does something unique. Giant Fall. Wretched Wretch. Ah yes, the old Wretched Wretch. This creature dies if it had a -1/-1 counter on it. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control and it loses all abilities. Not bad. Kinsbell Aspirant. Little Behold a Kithkin or pay 2. And whenever another creature you control enters, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Very good turn 1 play if you're able to get it out unlimited. Adept Water Shaper. This is one that I got to see do some pretty good work. It says other tapped creatures you control have indestructible. So a little unsynergistic with the untapped target merfolk at end step, but very synergistic with being able to attack and having your creatures be indestructible. It's just a good card. Scarblade's Malice is our foil. We've got a Swamp, and a Goblin, and a Tree Folk. Swamp looks different, like it was the nighttime, I think. It looks like they did kind of a Shadowmoor-esque Morning Tide vibe for most of these, so it's a lot of fun. Kolrath Mystic, Tributary Vaulter, Reckless Ransacking, Soulbright Seeker. Red. Target creature you control gains trample until end of turn. If this is the 3rd time this ability is resolved this turn, add red, 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 red. Pretty strong. This definitely has a lot of familiar feelings to the, I think it's Soulscar Elemental. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it does something similar and it gives you 6 red instead. Mud Button Course Tosser. Thirst for Identity, the new Thirst card that lets you draw 3, but then you discard 2 unless it's a creature. So now we have one for artifact, land, and creature. Hopefully we'll see something for instant sorcery in the future. Wanderbrine Trapper. Rise the Evermore, or Reese the Evermore, excuse me. I know some people are very particular on how his name is pronounced. When Reese enters, another target creature you control gains persist until end of turn. This has flash, so this is very good. You're able to kind of do this as a response. And then you can pay a white and remove any number of counters from target creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. So there's a lot of good -1/-1 counter creatures that are coming. Oh, we got a foil Figure of Fable as our rare. I think this is very reminiscent of Figure of Destiny, and since it's still in white, it definitely has potential. This is level up before level up was a thing. Basically, you turn this creature into a Kithkin Scout for just 1 mana. Then, if it is a Scout, it becomes a Kithkin Soldier with base power 4/5 instead. And then, if this is a Soldier, it becomes a Kithkin Avatar with base power 7 and 8 and protection from each of your opponents. So, if you do give this Changeling and you are able to just pay the 6 mana, you can just straight up activate this whenever you'd like, because as long as it's a Soldier, it does get that effect. And then you turn it from a 1/1 into a 7/8 with protection from each of your opponents. Very good, very strong card. Very excited to see what it can do. Alright, so we've seen 3 Shoplands. Hopefully we'll see the other 2 still. And maybe we'll even get one of the fancy double-sided ones. That would be really cool. Search Perfection, Enraged Flamecaster, Run Away Together, good reprint. Impolite Entrance. Target creature gains trample and haste until end of turn. And then it's got draw a card. Very good cantrip. Swat Away. This spell costs 2 less to cast if a creature is attacking you, and the owner of target spell or creature puts it on their choice of top or bottom of their library. Pretty good. Blue got a little bit of teeth, as long as something is attacking them. Reaping Willow. It's got lifelink and it enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it. You can pay 1 and either white-black hybrid to remove 2 counters from this creature to return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, but you can only activate it as a sorcery. Very strong. It definitely has a lot of good potential, and if you are able to run it with the blight creatures, putting more counters on this to eventually remove them to get your stuff back, very good plays. Sapling Nursery. This is one of the cards I've been super excited to see. Affinity for Forest has landfall whenever land you control enters. Create a 3/4 green tree folk creature token, like we've seen. And you can pay 1 and a green and exile this enchantment to give Treefolk and Forest you control indestructible until end of turn. So with Earthbending in the format, there's definitely a strong potential that we see a really good mono green deck come out of this. So I'm super excited to see what this card does, and I'm excited to pick up a copy myself soon. Wanderbrine Trapper in foil this time. Got a Forest, and we got an MDFC card. For 2 seconds, I was like, for why do we have an MDFC card? And then I remember there are transform creatures in this. So we need to have something represented for those who do not want to use sleeves. Or don't want to use clear sleeves, or what have you. Stalactite Dagger, Flaring Cinder, Tweeze, Wary Farmer, Glister Baron, still prefer Gilder Baron, Boldweir Aggressor, double strike, and it gives other giants you control double strikes. It's 2/5 for 5, pretty strong. Noggle the Mind, flash, enchant creature. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is in a colorless Noggle with base power and toughness 1/1. Yes, become the Noggle, be the Noggle. Flock Imposter. Okay, Lorwyn Eclipsed Naturalist. So this is green-black hybrid, 2 of them. When it enters, you mill 4 cards. Then you may put a creature or land card from among the milled cards on top of your library. And then you can pay 2 and 3 green-black hybrid and tap it and discard a land card to create a 1/1 black and green worm creature token for each land card in your graveyard. So this is reminiscent of the card, I believe it's Worm Harvest, that was printed in Lorwyn the first time. May have been Shadowmoor, I can't remember, but it had the same thing, and instead of it being on a dude, it was a retrace spell that you could cast again from your graveyard by discarding a land. So very good synergy. Blossoming Defense, good reprint. Nice that we got it in foil. Got another Kithkin and another treasure. Alright, just a little over halfway through. Hopefully we see some more Shocklands. Still haven't seen a Bitterbloom Bearer. Still haven't seen that sweet, sweet Hexing Squelcher. So hopefully we're going to run into one of those soon. That's something we're all very excited to see. Blight Rot. Elder Auntie. Very good 2 for 1. Bristlebane Outrider. Warren Torchmaster. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may Blight 1. When you do, target creature gains haste. Pretty strong. Iron Elf is a very good limited card. You'll be able to keep it alive for a very long time. Tenaful Rhyme Speaker, and Marilyn Fey Ascendant. This is an elf fairy noble. It's got flying. Whenever Marilyn or another elf or fairy you control enters, exile the top 2 cards of target opponent's library. Once each turn, you may cast a spell with mana value less than or equal to the number of elves and fairies you control from among the exiled cards with Marilyn this turn without paying its mana cost. This is going to be a very interesting commander card. I think a lot of people are excited to build the new Sultai Marilyn, and I think they're also excited for that enchantment that came out as well. That is basically Marilyn on an enchantment and does quite a lot of good stuff. For those who don't know, Marilyn Morningsong, Moonveil token. For those who don't know, Marilyn Morningsong is a black creature from Morningtide who... Excuse me, Mornsong, not Morning Song. I do apologize. That is the incorrect pronunciation, because that's not the right word. But Marilyn the Mornsong would let you skip your draw. All players skip their draw step, or can't draw cards, I believe. And then at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player searches their library for a card and loses 3 life and puts that card into their hand. So they basically get to Grim Tutor every turn, and then you run effects like Ob Nixilis, which says when your opponent's search, Opposition Agent, things of that nature. So it'll be very interesting to see what the commander can do. Personify, exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Create a 1/1 colorless shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. So this gives you another thing, and it also lets you flicker something. So it costs a little bit more than Ephemerate. It doesn't have rebound, but still not bad. Great for triggering those double enter the battlefield effects. Graveshifter reprint, wonderful. Kin Binding. 3 and 2 white. Creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures that entered the battlefield this turn. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 white-green, green and white Kithkin creature token. So this is kind of similar to Cathar's Crusade, only instead of them getting +1/+1 counters, they just get a buff for that phase, or for that turn. I think that'll make it a lot more appealing to players, as it won't require you to keep track of so many counters and things to keep track of. You'll just have to keep track of it for that combat or for that turn. And that's pretty invaluable. Anything that doesn't require you to take extra game actions, especially when you've been playing all day, is definitely going to be looked up upon, as most people would like to relax their brain when they're playing this game, as much as they can anyways, reasonably. Bone Club Berserker. We got a more cancel list in the fancy frame this time. We got an Eclipsed Finkin, Pummeler for Hire, and a Champions of the Shoal. As an additional cost to this spell, behold a merfolk and exile it. So, you either get to exile a merfolk you control or a merfolk card from your hand. Kind of similar to Champion, if you remember what Champion can do. Whenever this creature enters or becomes tapped, tap up to one target creature and put a stun counter on it. When this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exile card to its owner's hand. So important that if you do exile something from your battlefield, you won't get it back, whereas if you exile something from your hand, you'll get it back to your hand. And the same goes, you will get the creature that you exiled from the battlefield back to your hand. Could be good if you're trying to get a double impure into the battlefield effect. We got a Curel, a 10 of first year. The hybrid red guy, he's a vampire cleric. Tap 2 untap creatures you control, copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy, but you can only activate it once per turn. Pretty strong. Wretched Wretch and foil this time. A mountain and a merfolk shapeshifter. Alright. So now that we've kind of seen how the packs look and what they look like, for the rest of this, I'm probably just going to be scanning through anything of note I'll talk about, anything I see that I know would be an interesting spec or something to potentially go over. I'll try to remember to do so. But I think for the most part, we can just kind of go. Collective Inferno, it's got Convoke. As this enchantment enters, choose a creature type. Double all damage the sources you control of the chosen type would deal. So even though it's in red, this is very strong in any Kindred deck that has red. You want to double up the power of all your goblins, you want to double up the power of all of your soldiers, anything that you can possibly think of that would do very well, this is going to make that much better. And it has Convoke, so you're able to just do it with your creatures in second main, or you're able to do it with your unhasted creatures in your first main. Get that double damage going. Bonus points if you're able to give it flash. Then you're able to do it during combat to kind of scare your opponents even further. All right. It's like some of the packs are so easy to open, yet other packs require a lot more pressure, a lot more power. I think the Merfolk synergies and limited are going to do very well, although I do think that red has potentially the strongest if you're able to build it. Highly recommend trying out goblins if you're able to do so. It seems like they're going to be quite good. Dose of Dawnglow, 4 and a black, instant speed, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then if it isn't your main phase, Blight 2. So you could bring something back just to kill it if you wanted to, or you could bring something back, not put the counters on it, and put it on something different. Wanderwine Farewell, Thoughtweft Imbuer, Sig's Command. Choose to create token that's a copy of target merfolk you control. Creature's target player controls gains lifelink until end of turn. Target player draws a card, or tap target creature and put a stun counter on it. Drawing a card for 3 mana, it's about average. But being able to make a token copy of target merfolk you control, I'm thinking like Lull Mage Mentor and the like, that could be very strong. Pestered Wellguard foiled this time. Got a Plains. Tributary Volter. Unbury. Choose 1. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Return 2 target creature cards that share a creature type from your graveyard to your hand. Pretty good. Shine Stalker, and we got an Oko. Lorwyn Liege. So for 2 and a blue, beginning of your first main phase, you may pay a green if you do transform Oko. His +2 is up to 1 target creature gains all creature types, and his +1 is target creature gets -2, -0 until your next turn. So of note, the counters will not go away. They will stay on this card because when you're transforming, unless it specifically tells you to exile, you're strictly taking the card and turning it on its other side. So that means that all of the loyalty counters will stay on it. So his plus side is going to be all in the front, and his neg side is all going to be on the back. With his first -1 being mill 3 cards, you may put a permanent card from among them into your hand. His -3 being create 2 3/3 green elk creature tokens, and his -6 giving the emblem that we saw earlier, which creatures you control of the chosen type, after you've chosen the type for the ability, get +3/+3 and have vigilance and hexproof. Very strong card. Very interested to see what it can do. Island and Kithkin. Hopefully you don't hear the construction effects that are going on outside of our place. We try to get it as quiet as possible. Flamekin Guildweaver, run away together. Blossoming Defense, back again. Lasting Tarfire. At the beginning of each end step, if you put a counter on a creature this turn, this enchantment deals 2 damage to each opponent. So for the creatures that specifically are saying Blight, you can definitely take advantage of that because it does trigger at each end step. Dawnhand Descendant, tap Blight 1, Surveil 1, tap Blight 2, exile target card from a graveyard. During your turn, you may cast creature spells from among cards you own exiled with this creature by removing 3 counters from among creatures you control, in addition to paying for their other costs. It seems okay since you're going to be blighting a lot with that guy. Foil Surly Farrier, another MDFC card. Alright. Got about 7 more packs to go. And then we through our first box and go on to the next. Chaos Spewer. Unexpected Absence. Shoreline Lurker. Oops. Riverguard's Reflexes. Non-foil Deep Channel Duelist this time. Boggart Cursecrafter has Death Touch. Whenever another goblin you control dies, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. It's good that it's not any target, otherwise it would just be a consistent pinger. Springleaf Drum, nice reprint from the first Lorwyn, but we haven't seen this since Born of the Gods, so it's good to see again. Or excuse me, Brothers War. Ah yes, the Morn Song Aria. This is one of the rares I know people were excited for. It costs 3 mana. Players can't draw cards or gain life. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player loses 3 life, searches their library for a card, puts it into their hand, and then shuffles. So again, this is very similar to Marilyn Mornsong. This is her aria, so it does kind of track that this is what we would see. Aurora Awakener, we got a twofer. 6 and a green giant druid, trample, 7/7. When this creature enters, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X permanent cards, where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. Put any number of those permanent cards onto the battlefield, then put the rest of the revealed cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. So Vivid, the new, not new mechanic where they're actually just mentioning, you know, the color among permanents you control. I know for Bloom Tender, seeing that as an actual just mechanic name is going to be very interesting for a lot of players. And they'll errata it inside of, I'm sure, just Magic or Gatherer, and let us know that yes, this is a thing that all Bloom Tender copies have now, and it's not a bad mechanic. I like it. I like the name of it. I think it tracks and makes sense, and I'm a big fan of names that make a lot of sense. Lissalana Dignitary, Lasting Tarfire again, Mud Button Curse Tosser, and we got a Doran Besieged by Time. This is another commander card that I think a lot of people are going to be excited to see. May do some work in Standard, but with the 4 kind of junk cost, it's going to be a little difficult to get everything out. Each creature spell you cast with toughness greater than its power costs 1 less to cast, and whenever a creature you control attacks or blocks, it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the difference between its power and toughness. Very interesting. Great Forest Druid in foil. Alright. Got a Stalactite Dagger. Getting a little messy. Don't worry. I'm gonna clean up before we go into the next box because I would like us to kind of have it all looking good, looking fresh for each one. Everstrike's Gift, Lofty Dreams, Shimmer Wild's Growth, and non-foil, Goliath Daydreamer. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, exile that card with a dream counter on it instead of putting it into your graveyard as it resolves. When this creature attacks, you may cast a spell from among the cards you own in exile with dream counters on them without paying their mana cost. So for 4 mana, this can give you a 2/4. If you're able to attack with it immediately after you cast it, this just seems like you'll be able to double cast a couple of things, and bonus points if you're already running twin cast-like effects. Meek Attack! One of the cooler mythics that I like a lot. Sneak Attack, very reminiscent, but this is a little bit more interesting as it's 1 in a red instead of just a red. You may put a creature card with total power and toughness 5 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste. At the beginning of your next end step, sacrifice that creature. So this will be very good for any like smaller ETB effects that you're trying to get, and it'll be a lot better for all of those low to the ground goblin decks or just low to the ground decks in general, because that'll give you a better way to cheat out more powerful creatures, and if they have a when this creature dies effect, it'll be that much stronger. So definitely a good card. Very excited to see what it can do. Gangly Stompling, Glamour Might, Sun Dappled Celebrant, Foraging Wickermaw, Reckless Ransacking, Gut Splitter Gang. At the beginning of your first main phase, you may blight 2. If you don't, you lose 3 life. So 4 mana, 6/6 makes you kind of reduce your things. If not, you just lose 3. Flame Breeder. Tap to add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast elemental spells or activate abilities of elemental sources. So this can specifically add the 2 that you need to convoke some of the bigger elementals we've seen. High Perfect Morkant. Whenever High Perfect Morkant or another elf you control enters, each opponent blights 1. Tap 3 untapped elves you control to proliferate. Activate only as a sorcery. So no end of turn buffing up your dudes if they have +1/+1 counters, but you can definitely do it during your turn to make sure that you kill off your opponent's creatures, which is pretty strong. Eclipsed Marrow in foil. Got a Plains, this time on the night side, with lighthouses instead of wings. Feisty Spikeling, River Guard's Reflexes, Unwelcome Sprite, Moon Vigil Adherence, Kindle the Inner Flame. Its flashback is Behold 3 Elementals, so you can choose elementals you control, but you'd have to choose 3 different ones. But it does say create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it has haste, and at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice this token. Pretty strong for 4 mana, pretty decent for flashback if you have the elementals. Champion of the Klatchan. Kithkin Knight. As an additional cost of the spell, behold a Kithkin and exile it. So very similar to Champion, but in this case, you can either do it from the field or from your hand. Other Kithkin you control get +1/+1, and when this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to its owner's hand. Got another rare, Spry and Mighty. 4 and a green, choose 2 target creatures you control, you draw X cards, and the chosen creatures get +X/+X and gain trample, where X is the difference between those chosen creatures' powers. That's a lot of chosen X's. Illusion Spinners, Plains in the light side. Alright, last 3 packs of the first box. We'll be going through an entire case today, so stay tuned. Got a lot to get through, and that's why, as I said, we'll be kind of moving right along here once I get a little cleanup action done. Silvergill Mentor again, very nice. Kithkeeper. We got another first-year student with Vivid at the beginning of your first main phase. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X non-land cards, where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. For each of those colors, you may exile a card of that color among the revealed cards, then shuffle. You may cast the exiled cards this turn. So very important, for 4 mana, you do reveal a bunch of cards, and you have a really good chance to hit those 5 cards, but you can only cast them the turn that she comes in. I'm going to say the turn Senar comes in, as I'm not sure of Senar's gender. Shore Lurker in foil. Right. Cleansing. Oh, there's something in the back. Tend the Sprigs. Burning Curiosity. Blight Rot. Thoughtweft Lieutenant is our fancy. This creature or another Kithkin you control enters. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. Pretty strong. Eclipsed Kithkin. Puka's Eye. And a Mirror Mind Crown. As long as this equipment is attached to a creature, the first time you would create one or more tokens this turn, you may instead create that many tokens that are copies of equipped creature. Tally players rejoice. Yet another thing. Oh, a fancy Brigade's Command. A foil Catharsis. We got 3 rares in that pack. And the Catharsis is, again, very strong card. I think it'll definitely see play, especially in Standard and Limited. I feel like that's just a very strong bomb for 6 mana. Alright. Last pack of box 1. Flaring Cinder. Timid Shieldbind, Shield Bearer, Blight Rot, Tend the Sprigs. We got an Eclipsed Marrow, Bark of Doran. Crypt creature gets +0/+1. As long as a crypt creature's toughness is greater than its power, it assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Pretty strong. Another Twilight Diviner, Heirloom Monty in foil, and that is the end of our first box.